Call to order the special call meeting for the Muskogee City Council. Roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully. Dan Hall. Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston. Here. Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Item number 1.
Discuss and take action to posthumously honor Cassandra Gaines, formerly Civic Center Manager, for her many contributions to the city of Muskogee.
Councilor Marlon Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor, and to the council. We are just so honored to be able to make this recommendation to the council on tonight. I'll read a brief statement, and then we can take whatever action is necessary regarding Cassandra Gaines. Many in the city were the beneficiaries of her more than 25 years of career service to this city. Cassandra managed a municipally owned and operated civic center during a time when many other cities had already contracted that service out. But nothing would stop her from doing what she could to make the city of Muskogee better with the little that she had. Not having the benefit of having a lucrative budget to attract daily, weekly, or monthly stage performances, she did the best she could with little. And as a person of faith, like many of us are, she believed that little could be made much when placed in the hands of Jesus. Her desire for a greater Muskogee was not delineated by lines of color or class, because she believed we could come together for a common goal, that the values of class within our city as a whole would be raised. This is seen with her last major promotion that she worked on, which was the Gap Band concert at Love Hatbox Field, a festival that brought people together from all walks of life and distances. There are many other things and niceties that we could say about our beloved sister, Cassandra Gaines, but time will not allow for all of those things to be said this afternoon. She tirelessly labored not for what Muskogee was, but for what Muskogee could be. Potential happens when wisdom's eyes look forward to the future, and Cassandra Gaines used her experiences to shape a forward view of what Muskogee could be. And I'm asking my colleagues tonight to join me in remembering Cassandra's vision for a greater Muskogee by supporting this motion to rename the pavilion area in front of the Muskogee Civic Center the Cassandra Gaines Cultural Pavilion, and with the ceremony and appropriate placard to be scheduled in coordination with her family at a time and date to be announced no later than 30 days from tonight. That would be my motion.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Be a little more specific on the area.
There is an area that faces Okmulgee. It's about 60 feet, I guess, Mike, from the front door of the Civic Center. And it's an awkwardly shaped pavilion. It has a big open space missing. And so that's the place that we're talking about renaming.
Okay. Got a motion and a second, or other comments or questions? Roll call.
Well, I'd like, if I may jump in, Councilor Coleman, the one thing we might like to do is given the uniqueness of the site, we want to make sure that we find a memorial plaque or stone that fits that particular spot in that 30-day time frame. May or may not fit with a custom order that we may have to do. So if we could just have some leniency on the time frame, we want to do it with all deliberate speed, but certainly also appropriate to that particular location. So I would suggest if we could amend that time frame to 60 or 90 days, or just with deliberate speed, that would be appreciated.
I meant to deliberate speed.
Thank you.
So do we need to amend the motion?
Yes.
Because you did state in the motion 30 days. So
I just amended it.
okay. And did we amend it with a second?
Yes.
As well, okay. All right. Any other comment or question?
Yes, Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
Can we all stand and just give a clap for Sister Cassandra Gaines just for this motion and just to recognize her? Can we all stand and just clap?
Sure.
And we'd also like to recognize the presence of her daughter, who is also here on this evening, and thank her for this opportunity to recognize her mother.
Let's not forget to vote, though. Right, as well. Okay. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 2.
Consider approval of the sale of 5.54 acres of real property located at Green Hill Cemetery to the Board of County Commissioners of Muskogee County, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, as the council I'm sure recalls, we received this direction a few months ago to move forward with transferring property that the county currently uses and has structure on and uses as a yard as well, that they have been for quite some time. They have used it for many different things, including storage and some junk parts, and even though it's been our property. And so we pursued a negotiation with them. Basically what we come down to is we had an independent appraisal that they agreed that they would pay that amount. They also agreed to fence the property so that they would not, to borrow a phrase from our city attorney, they would not further encroach, that they would stay on the property that they currently use and not come over onto city property any further. And so based on the recommendation that we had from the council to move forward, this is the deal that we've negotiated with the county, that they pay the appraised value, that they do fence off the property, and that we set that money aside, as we discussed, for improvements to the cemetery. And that's with that, I would give it to the council for consideration.
Okay.
So move.
I've got a comment.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a motion and a second? And then
I'll
we'll open
second
it
it.
for comment. Okay, got a motion and a second, and we also have someone in the audience that would like to speak to this item as well. Yes, sir. Counselor.
My thoughts on this sale, pardon me for that.
You know, fine.
I'll pay it. We're not, the cemetery at some point is going to need more land. And the value of that land to the cemetery is much more valuable than the land to the county or for storage use or what have you. I realize that an appraisal on empty dirt behind a county barn may very well be at $1,400 an acre, which is fair enough. You can get specialty appraisals upon which an appraiser would be working on behalf of the cemetery and purchasing the 5 acres, and they could rationale an appraised value of $50,000 an acre because of what the value and worth is to the cemetery on future revenue. That's neither here nor there. I don't believe that we ought to be giving up 5.5 acres of land, giving it away, selling it for $1,400 an acre or what have you, that cemetery property. I did earlier say that I'd be in favor of selling the acreage for a certain amount. I think the amount back then was 80 that was kind of bantered about, so that they could put a crematorium garden on about an acre of current cemetery property, in which you could get the same amount of bodies up, foot squares up and out, as you could on this 5 acres, more than 10 by 4 spaces for burial plots. So that rationale made sense, especially with the growing need of cremations. But it doesn't make any sense to me to permanently give up city cemetery land, which could be used later down the line, especially for this price. I would be in favor of leasing it to them, letting them use it. I'd be in favor of them finding other land that was on the perimeter of the cemetery grounds and making a swap, acre for acre. But I don't see the need in giving up cemetery land that's conjoined to the cemetery at this small price.
All right, sir. Are there other comments or questions? And then we'll open it up to a person from the audience that wants to speak. And we'll need to suspend the rules.
That's correct.
Is that correct? Okay, we'll need to vote to allow the person to speak who was not here to sign up prior to the meeting. So I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules for that person to speak, and I'm assuming we can do that even though there's a motion and a second. on the
Yeah,
floor.
because
Is
that's
that
the
correct?
that's a procedural motion, and what
Okay.
we've got set aside is a main
I'll
motion.
make that motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. If you're roll call relating to that motion.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, the motion carries. Regina, would you like to approach the microphone and give us your name and your address, if you would, please?
I have something to pass out. My name is Regina Martin. I'm the widow of Vernon Martin, the superintendent of Green Hill Cemetery. My address is 32740 South 549 Road, Cookson, Oklahoma. Could I?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I've already passed out what I was going to read to you.
You need a copy?
Yes. I'll share with Pam. Oh, okay.
First of all, let me say that I had to say where I'm from, and I am not from the city of Muskogee, but I shared my husband with the city of Muskogee for 20 years. So I know about the city of Muskogee and what his dreams were for it. So thank you for allowing me this time. I'm here today to present my concern in supporting documentation regarding the proposed sale of Green Hill Cemetery property to the county for the proposed amount of $8,000. Less than 45 days ago, most of you in this room expressed your willingness to assure that my late husband Vernon Martin's future plans for Green Hill Cemetery would be carried out. Some of you, and I'd like to say Mr. Tucker, called him a visionary, and I thank you for recognizing that. In front of each of you is a packet. In this packet are communications regarding the sale of this property, its proposed value, and other documents regarding the Columbarium project in which the said sale of the property would and should be earmarked for. Item marked number 1 is an email to Mike Stewart communicating to him the value of the property and the potential loss of revenue to the city if conveyed to the county. Mr. Martin, as well as I, would consider the mere $8,000 proposed for the agenda today as giving it away. He knew that because of the county's encroachment on the property, the area could be deemed unsightly and perhaps unfit for cemetery use. As you can see, given the size of the area, and you do have a map behind you, the price of the lots, including the opening, the closing, the potential of the marker placement, and factored in at the low end, meaning a small marker for each grave, would generate revenue of $815,000. The fact that 12.5% of any revenues brought in to the cemetery are to be placed into the perpetual fund care for the use of the cemetery purposes only. In his communication, he noted that this amount could not be considered, but $80,000, as he proposed, would pay for the start of the Columbarium project. And I just want to say 12.5% of $815,000 is over $100,000. $80,000 was what he was asking for this project to start the Columbarium project. In Mr. Martin's email, he stated the money collected for the sale of this property could get our cremation garden up and going without the burden on our budget. And that's a quote. Yes, Mr. Tucker and Mr. Miller, Vernon was a visionary. It was his vision as a long-range plan. And item number 2 that I have in front of you is dated 4/13/12. The cremation is growing as a major trend, and Green Hill needs to keep up with the trends and the needs of the citizens of Muskogee. The first phase of the Columbarium project has a potential of creating $200,000 in revenue, as it's stated in the proposal to Mr. Buckley, who was a previous city manager. Last but not least, item number 3, please refer to the city's cemetery code to remind yourselves of how the decisions of cemeteries are made. My presentation to you today is an emotional one, to remind you that the vision of Mr. Martin had, and I ask that this be tabled until this can be reconsidered at its original price to complete the project. I believe he was referred to many of his co-workers as outspoken and tempered with kindness, meaning you knew what was on his mind. I believe you know today how I feel as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Regina.
I withdraw my original motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, so is action needed on the item if both motion and are withdrawn?
The motion is withdrawn, so we're open for other motions.
Okay, open for another motion, a motion of another kind.
Mr. Mayor,
Or,
it may be appropriate, and I'm certain Mr. Miller and Mr. Tucker can correct me, if the motion would be to direct staff to investigate what we can do to quantify the numbers that have been presented, as well as come up with some alternative options, if there be any, before we move forward.
okay. I don't know that we need that in
Be
form
direction
of a
to staff.
motion. I think it
Direction
should
to
be
staff?
direction to
Yeah.
staff without
That
a
would be what I
motion.
would ask, if that's,
So there will be no action taken on the item then.
all right.
We'll be happy to look into it.
Okay. Item number 3, please.
Consider approval to ratify submittal of application for the 2016 Everybody Walk Micro Grant in the amount of $1,500 as recommended by the Muskogee Wellness Initiative, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mayor, members of the council, I attended the Wellness Initiative meeting last month to present on an item unrelated to this particular one. And while I was there, Dr. Baker, who is a member of the committee, mentioned that there was a deadline for a $1,500 grant from the Everybody Walks program that the Wellness Initiative would like to apply for. The problem was the deadline was the next day. And so the decision was made to go ahead and make that application, get it on file, and then at the next available council meeting, put that on for your ratification and consideration. The plan for the funding, if the grant is awarded to the Wellness Initiative, is to utilize that for signage and lighting for another project for a grant they have been working on from Turning Point to do 2 additional sidewalks within the city. One on the east side of town and one on the west side from the apartments just west of the Quick Trip, I'm forgetting the name of them, to the Quick Trip, Port City. And then the Country Club apartments, from the Country Club apartments on Country Club to the Come and Go, because there are a lot of traffic on both of those areas. Placing sidewalks in would be a great purpose for that other grant. This $1,500 grant would be used for lighting, crosswalks, signage, things like that. So happy to answer any questions, but the Wellness Initiative, and I would recommend approval.
Okay.
I think that's a wonderful idea, considering that we have so many people, especially in the Port City area. I drive home that way, and they're always in the street trying to walk because there are no sidewalks at all. And that Quick Trip has become a real common source for a lot of people for just basic grocery needs. And so I think that goes along really, really good. And with the one out in Country Club, it's the same thing. They walk to the gas station because that's their grocery hub. Yeah. So I think that makes perfect sense.
Another
for
location I'd mentioned to
Second.
Mr. Tucker was on North York, or OK Road, I guess in this case, where the curve is before the,
Yes.
is it Katua
Yes.
Yeah.
Street, I think? The people walking from Bacone housing facilities along that road on that curve in the dark is a very, very dangerous situation that needs some lighting indoor walks or something, so. Okay. I guess that's kind of a chasing rabbit side trip, but we're asking to ratify this, and we have a motion and a second.
I
Okay.
so move.
Do we have other comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
I hope Ms. Melinda Murphy is listening to this, because it's been months and months ago, I brought up, the idea about going in from Shawnee and how those apartments, the people there don't have a way to get out the street.
Right.
And so I hope Ms. Murphy, because like I said, I was over at her house one day and she mentioned that to me. And like I said, and also the rest of the areas, sidewalks are very definitely important to us in our communities. So, but you see, right now, we talked about it, but you see how God made a way for us to get it? Ain't he awesome? And that's just how I feel. And I tell you all this all the time up here. When I went back there and examined and opened that door, he always opened doors. So I recommend highly that this goes through. Thank you. I turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Other comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 4.
Consider approval of an interlocal agreement between the Muskogee County Sheriff, the Board of County Commissioners of Muskogee County, and the City of Muskogee for the operation of the Community Intervention Center, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker again.
Mayor, members of the council, first I'd like to say, finally, we've reached the point where we've got an agreement on the to begin the operations of the formerly existing Community Intervention Center. As you all may remember, the Office of Juvenile Affairs, who had previously provided funding to the city would then subcontract with the Sheriff's Office to run the CIC. The funding for that had dried up as of July 1 of this year. So as a result, no additional funding other than what the city had set aside was available. And so what ended up happening was the CIC had to close. And that created a substantial hardship on our officers, not only for Muskogee, but for also county and the school. Because that facility would serve as a location to drop off juveniles who had some offense, some municipal offense, or low-level offense, which would not warrant jail, but would essentially warrant that their parents being called to pick them up and promise to appear for a court appearance on the minor violation. However, since CIC has no longer been in operations, the officers who make those detainments are required to sit with the juvenile until a parent or guardian can be reached. Of course, this results in fewer officers back on the street and generally creates for an unsafe environment within the city. So we took the task of working with the funding that we had with the existing staff at CIC, the Sheriff's Department, and the Board of County Commissioners, and I'm happy to say we have an agreement now for your consideration. I presented this to the Sheriff, both present and elect, and both have feel strongly that this should be approved, so they did execute the agreement. I also presented it Monday to the Board of County Commissioners, and they also approved the agreement. So it's now before you for your consideration. Happily and eagerly recommend approval. Operations of CIC will be maintained through my office and the City Attorney's office, so we will do our utmost to make sure that it runs as efficiently as it had in the past. Happy to answer any questions.
So Roy, I see the cities will operate the CIC. Does that mean we'll have staff there, or?
Yes,
Okay, and
they'll work for us.
And is that somebody, some of our police officers, or?
No, this will be some of the existing staff who previously worked there, because they are required to have OJA certification.
Okay.
They already maintain that certification, so we'll just rehire them and put them on our payroll with funding provided from this $100,000 that is from the Juvenile Fine Fund.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Other comments or questions?
Roy, I just want to say thank you. This is really, the city stepping in, filling in a gap that was created. That is a huge step forward at putting our officers back out on the street. It made some of the programs ineffective in our community and in our school system without this. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Other comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries, and that concludes the agenda for the special call meeting.
Call to order the Finance Committee meeting for November the 22nd. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of November 8, 2016.
Review of the minutes. Are there any corrections?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 1 passed. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments, October 29, 2016 through November 16, 2016.
Do we have a report from the Purchasing Committee?
Yes, sir. The purchasing committee met earlier today and reviewed the report of claims with the city treasurer, and I move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 2 passed. Item number 3, please.
Consider approval to accept a proposal from Merit Tennis Court and Track Systems in the amount of $39,880 for the resurfacing of Spalding Park tennis courts or take other necessary action.
Mr. Wilkerson?
Mr. Chairman and committee members, the Parks Department and staff, the purchasing department put out to bid the resurfacing of Spalding Park tennis courts. There's 6 tennis courts there. You may be familiar that we received a grant from the City of Muskogee Foundation to match some money that we received from the Yaffe family that's in escrow for Spalding Park. We budgeted $60,000 to do this project. The acrylic surfacing is what the term is used, is pretty unique in the companies that do this type of application. So we only had 2 bidders. We put together open specifications so that we were kind of opening it up to all the various products and the companies that might be interested in bidding. We only had 2 companies to bid. One was an Oklahoma company out of Tulsa called Merit Tennis, and a company out of Georgia called Advanced Athletics. They actually used 2 different kinds of materials, and so we checked out the references of both of the companies and the products that they use. There was a significant price difference of the 2 products. The product, though, that's preferred in the company that we would recommend is the Merit Tennis Company. They had very high recommendations from various public entities that had done this, and most recently had just completed the resurfacing the tennis courts at Muskogee High School. And several people have contacted me telling me about how good the quality is of the work there. So in this case, we were actually asking and recommending the higher price of the bid, and would like to recommend Merit Tennis at the $39,880. This is within our available budget to do the project, and presented to purchasing this afternoon, which also approved the recommendation.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 3 passed. Item number 4, please.
Consider approval of receiving donated funds for the month of October. It reads November, but I was contacted and asked to change that to October 2016 in the amount of $170 for the city's animal shelter sponsorship program as per the attached list, or take other necessary action.
Chief?
Mr. Chairman, Council, for the month of October, we received $170. These funds are used to help manage and operate the animal shelter, and they go for the care of the animals. So I would request that we accept these funds.
Move the approval.
Second.
Second.
And would that, Mr. Chairman, would
Yes.
that motion be as amended?
Yes.
Okay. And would that second be as amended as
Second.
well? Okay.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 4 passed, and that is the final item on Finance Committee.
We'll now call to order the Public Works Committee meeting. Item number 1, Pam.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of November 8, 2016.
Any additions or changes?
Move the approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 2.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of an ordinance rezoning the property located on the southeast corner of Shawnee Avenue and Pickens Street, more particularly described in the ordinance, from R1 Single Family Residential District to C3 Regional Commercial District, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We are now in the public hearing. Mr. Garvin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the applicant is requesting approval to rezone property from the R1 Single Family Residential District to the C3 Regional Commercial District. The property is located on the southeast corner of Shawnee Avenue and Pickens Street. The reason for the rezoning is to allow the property to be developed commercially. They are proposing a Chet's Dairy Queen or Dairy Freeze on the property. Looking at the existing zoning land use within the area, starting with the site. The site is currently zoned R1 Single Family and is vacant property. To the north, which is across Shawnee, is Zone C1, local commercial, and is the El Chico restaurant. To the south is zoned R1, single family, and is vacant property. The aerial shows a structure, but that structure was demolished. To the east is Zone C1, local commercial, and is the location of Taco Bueno. And west across Pickens Street is Zone C1, local commercial, and is Applebee's Grill and Bar. Now, if you look at the land use map, it does indicate regional commercial along the Shawnee Avenue corridor. The star shows the location of the site. You can see Shawnee Avenue. All the red indicates the C3 classification, regional commercial classification. Therefore, this request complies with both the comprehensive plan and the land use map. This item's been recommended for approval by staff and planning commission. Be glad to answer any questions.
Seeing that no one signed up to address this issue, we're going to close the public hearing. Any questions or discussion among committee?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other thoughts? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, and I'm hoping we can do this by the end of the year. Is that right?
Get the chats up by the end?
You
or-
bet,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Item number 3.
Consider approval of an ordinance amending the City of Muskogee Code of Ordinances, Section 2-281, Meetings, Procedural Rules Established within Division 6, City Facilities Board of Article 5, Boards and Commissions of Chapter 2, Administration, modifying meeting frequency, providing for repealer, severability, and setting an effective date or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I was contacted by the chairman of the Facilities Board. After the Facilities Board has met and operated for about a year, they took to task to look at the frequency of their meetings. And it was the recommendation of the Facilities Board that their meetings be modified to quarterly rather than monthly. When we drafted the ordinance, we included a requirement that they meet monthly. So if they want to change the frequency of their meetings, because we did have that monthly requirement, it would require an ordinance change to allow them to meet at least quarterly. So I've made the modification, the proposed ordinance, to modify that. If in the future they decide they need to meet more frequently, they always have the option to meet more frequently or by regular meeting or by special call because of the language that they shall meet at least once per quarter. So that this modification would give them more freedom to meet in accordance with their needs. I do recommend approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Move the approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 4.
Consider approving a resolution declaring the property located at 1400 North 36th Street, Brewer Avenue on North 36 as surplus property and authorize the sale of the property to Brian Phillips in the amount of $2,000 to take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, as you all are aware, we have had a lot of success with our surplus property program. In this case, we had more than one bidder, and so we have a higher amount that received than we usually do. And we do continue this program. And the county has a lot of property still available that they have not yet transferred to us, but they've allowed us to make available to the public. So I'd like to remind everyone that maybe a wonderful Christmas gift is buying some city lots for your loved ones as we try and get these back on the tax rolls. This particular sale.
I'll buy you one. How about if I put you 4 or 5?
I would love that. Absolutely.
You need something to mow.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
We have had a lot of success with this, and we do have a lot of young people and young families that are looking at this as a great opportunity to start investing in our community. So I definitely recommend this sale and encourage us to keep this program in the minds of our community members going forward.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
The motion carries. Item number 5.
Consider approval of use agreement between the City of Muskogee and the Heart of Oklahoma Motorcycle Safety Course for use of terminal conference room and designation portion of South Apron to conduct rider safety courses as approved by the Federal Aviation Administration and Airport Board, or take other necessary action.
Drew, I think this is your item.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. The Heart of Oklahoma Motorcycle Safety Course is a school certified by the State of Oklahoma and the Motorcycle Safety Foundation to educate the youth and the general public in motorcycle safety. The Motorcycle Safety Course serves a public service by assistance to citizens of the city and the surrounding areas. We currently do not have a Motorcycle Safety Foundation certified course in the area. This agreement is for the occasional use by the Motorcycle Safety Course of certain rooms located within the terminal building at 1201 Sabre Street, building P330 at 1500 Boxcar Road, and the South Apron at Davis Field Airport. The city agrees to allow the Motorcycle Safety Course the use of the terminal conference room at a rental rate of $50 per day if available for use for classroom activities.
So, Drew, how many days does one of these courses take? Is it 7, 5, 8, 9?
It's a 2-day course.
It's a 2-day course?
Done over the weekend.
Okay.
As permitted by the Federal Aviation Administration Appendix B, the city further agrees to permit the Motorcycle Safety Course the occasional use of 120,000 square feet of the South Apron of Davis Field Airport to conduct the Motorcycle Safety Course riding exercises. This has been approved by the Federal Aviation Administration, and it is in an attached appendix. The motorcycle safety course will be using building P330, which is currently unoccupied, to store the motorcycles overnight when the course is happening. The motorcycle safety course must provide written request for use of the airport facilities to the airport manager no later than 5 days prior to the start of any training class or exercise, and all airport facilities are on a first-come, first-served basis for all customers. The city hereby reserves the right to utilize and or occupy the premises for our own use if necessary. The motorcycle safety course will make no alterations, additions, or improvements without the alterations approved separately in writing. And the motorcycle safety course will have $2 million worth of insurance, and the city will be named a policy holder on that policy. The term of this agreement shall be from the date of execution until December 1st, 2017, and will renew yearly unless terminated by the city or by notice of the motorcycle safety course. And this has been approved by the airport board, and I recommend approval.
Thank you, Drew. Any questions for Drew?
Move the approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
The motion carries. Item number 6.
Consider approval of amendment number 6 to the agreement between the City of Muskogee and Garver Engineering for the 24th Street Improvement Project, modifying provisions related to the right-of-way acquisition as anticipated by Amendment Number 3, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, Prague is here to explain this amendment to you. If you read Amendment Number 3, it laid out that we were going to have to have another amendment to that agreement, and Prague is going to explain that to you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the committee. I had attached Amendment Number 3 to the packet for your reference. And in that, we had mentioned that for parcels having structures impacted by the right-of-way or a value estimate, which will be exceeding about $10,000, we'll need an appraiser report by a state-certified general appraiser. And these were not anticipated at that time when we had approved Amendment Number 3. So now we are well underway for the right-of-way acquisition for the 24th Street project. We identified 4 parcels, and that's why you have Amendment Number 6 for here for your approval. And that 4 parcels will be costing us $12,000. Happy to answer any questions.
Was the $3,000 per parcel designated in part of the agreement?
Yes, if you see Amendment Number 3, sir,
Yep.
which is part of out of that.
That just looks awfully high. Good.
That was, this is basically something from, we had agreed to in Amendment Number 3, and it's a pass-through for Pinnacle, and Pinnacle is the same company who had helped us in South York Street.
Any other questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 7.
Thank you.
Receive an update report as per the Complete Streets policy within 6 months of policy adoption, and if necessary, provide direction to staff.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, as you are aware, we put together a Complete Streets program last year. And one of the requirements of that program was to give you an update on the progress of the program itself in a 6-month time frame. Doug Walton, who really championed this program in Prague, put it together, the report that you have in front of you, and Prague's here to present that to you, and Doug's in the audience if there's questions for him.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the committee. Under the Complete Streets performance measures, as Mike said, we are the Public Works Director is supposed to we are supposed to report the performance measures to you. And I had this handout is on your desk. It says Complete Streets performance measures. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through those as a line item. And if you have any questions, please stop me. The first one on this is the linear feet of new and repaired sidewalks and other pedestrian accommodations. We were pleased to inform you that the new MLK Street, which has sidewalks on both sides, is about 10,000 linear feet. The South York Street sidewalks, that was about 9,000. The downtown gateway monuments on Cherokee and Okmulgee, we had to take the sidewalk out to install the monuments. So we even documented that we put new sidewalks there. We have 2 new sidewalks on south of Elgin on 3rd and 5th Street. Those are where those the Arts District houses have come across. And there's a new sidewalk along the MLK Center, which is about 700 feet. And Muskogee Little Theater has some sidewalk around it. We have documented that. And there are some miscellaneous repairs and street cuts, which are 100 linear feet. On Cody Creek Trail, it's a 0.85 miles. I should have put that feet on there too. That's the new Park Trail where we had that. The total miles for new bike lanes and designated share use, we have 3.7 mile on MLK from 24th Street to and the South 24th Street, 40th Street, and West and East Broadway and Gibson Street, which are actually marked with share the road with bike.
And by the way, some of this wasn't just accomplished this year. This is some of the stuff that we have just gotten into the system. And remember, we're setting a baseline here, so this is a place where we'll start and advance from.
This is exactly what Mike said. We wanted to document what we have right now. And the number of new repairs, item 3 is number of new and repaired curb ramps installed on parkings and parking lots. We have 40 new curb ramps on MLK and 4 on Oak Mulligan Cherokee intersection, 8 along Muskogee Little Theater, and 1 along Elgin and 11th, 8 along MLK Center, 6 on South York Street. And item number 4, number of type and crosswalk intersection improvements. We studied 3 intersections with warrants, and we ended up taking out traffic signals and replacing them with a stop sign. They are 12th and Broadway, East Side Boulevard in Houston, 3rd and Columbus. Pedestrian crossing on R-Line and 26th. That's another pedestrian crossing we added. As a matter of fact, that I owe to Mr. Walton. He said, no, Prague, we added one there. So he did that. He was there. This item number 5, that's the information we got from Mr. John Ford from the MCTA. And we are pleased to inform you that we did install 3 transit kiosks there. They installed it, but they actually worked with us to make sure the locations were right. And they also added a new trolley route starting from the Muskogee Farmers Market on Wednesdays and Saturdays with designated stops at 4 apartment complexes. So that's helping a lot of senior citizens to come to the farmers market at that time. And people who do not have transport, but they can use the trolley system. That was one thing which was added. And item number 6, which again the information was given to us by Mr. Ford. He says 59 stops out of we have 59 stops, and out of these, 46 are accessible by sidewalks and curb ramps. That means 77% of our transit stops are ADA accessible. Item number 7, this information we got compiled from the Muskogee Police Department, and I think Officer Brawley was the one who compiled this for us. It shows the number of accidents we have had, number of fatalities we had, and the last page on your handout is the actual report, which says from the police department, which you can see all the intersections. And the accidents are within a period from the 1st of August 2015 to 31st of August 2016. That's the last page on your handout. Next item is the rates of children walking or bicycling to school. That information we got from Mr. Walton. He was instrumental in pushing that. It says data collected by email, phone, and that was way back in May 2016. And it shows that Alice Robertson Junior High, there are about 11.6% people. That means we have 75 students who walk to school there. That's about 11% of the total school population there. And on the Cherokee Elementary, there's another one, which they have about 25 to 30 walkers to school. And if you go to Whittier Elementary, that's about 16.9. Tony Getz is the highest, which is about 75. It's 20.4%. I mean, this just showed us that there are a lot of students who walk to school, and there are a few of them who bicycle also. Use the bicycle for school. Exceptions to this policy, we didn't grant any. And the last one I wanted to add was the addition of speed humps. That's the North 3rd Street. That's by the Martin Luther King Community Center. We added 2 there. And on South 3rd Street by the Head Start, we added 2 there too. And after that is the trail and bikeway count data. That was also, Mr. Walton provided us with that. And if you can see, this is over the year, starting in February, May, and in November. And it's a 3-day average and only for 2 hours. So in the 2 hours when this data was collected, we have had 15 bicyclists using the Centennial Trail, 6 pedestrians, and the 7th Street Trail we used, there were only about 3. And this goes on to show us that people are using our trails as well as pedestrians for recreation as well as health. I think that's all I have to report.
Doug, Mr. Walton, would you mind coming to the microphone for me, please, sir? And I know we worked together quite a bit on bicycles and sharrows and shared lanes. The schools, I know that we did some work with the schools. What's the status of encouraging some of these schools to walk or ride bikes? I know there were some grants or some other programs. Can you just kind of give me an update on where we go going forward?
Sure. There aren't currently any schools that are working on grants received for what they call Safe Routes to School. It's a state and federally funded program. I think the city of Muskogee and schools should actively pursue it. To my knowledge, none have in the recent past. The Muskogee County Health Department has worked with a number of schools on basically promoting it, assessing walkability to the school sites, and those with the highest number of students living within walking distance, primarily Irving, Whittier, Cherokee, and it's been, I think, we'll see. We've collected some data, but we've not really done it in as extensive a way. So, I think it'll be interesting to see if we see, increases. I think we've done a lot of efforts to, raise awareness about safety, parental education and student education on, tips for traveling safely when walking and riding to school. But we've got some schools with pretty high 15 to 20% that are walking or riding. It seems like a fairly reasonable amount, but as to how much higher it is, we'll see over time if we see some increases. It's something that we know we have a lot of neighborhoods, a lot of schools in neighborhoods that don't really have adequate sidewalks, and especially safe and direct route without having to walk in the street. And some of those streets are not so busy, and it's not as much of a problem, and some of them are fairly busy. And so, I know there's interest within Public Works, and I know that some of the counselors have expressed interest in looking specifically at some of those schools that need the most attention in improving the streets in those neighborhoods. And I think that's what I would recommend, that we look towards finding grant funding from wherever that might help to create sidewalks and better pedestrian facilities in those neighborhoods.
Doug, what is the walk and ride event that I've participated with you the last several years, and what's the name of that?
It's National Walk or Bike to School Day. It happens in October for primarily promoting walking, and in May for primarily promoting bicycling, but our efforts have really combined the two each time of the year to encourage, raise awareness about safety and encourage parents, families, and students to walk or ride their bikes to school.
I remember being particularly impressed that Tony Getz had a large number of
They do, and I didn't mention them just now,
both.
but Tony Getz does have a large percent of students who walk or ride.
And I guess for me, Doug, is my work takes me by Cherokee School every morning, and I just see all those students, and we've talked about before. So how do we go about, we say, okay, we're going to look for some grants, and we're going to do that. Mike, who's responsible for, facilitating that process of asking for grants or whatever, and being specific to a particular school or for the whole town? I'm just kind of curious. We talk about it, and it all sounds great, but who's actually putting the pen and pencil to the grant requests and going forward? I don't know, but I just think there's some needs around our elementary schools that we could really work with.
Yeah, well, Mr. Stewart and I have talked about Safe Routes to Schools grants that we can work on in the future. I think a partnership with the school makes a lot of sense in regard to that.
Nonprofit.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nonprofit resource, and now that we've developed our little grant committee that we have had working, and we've worked on several grants together, we're learning a new pathway to try to get these grants. And we have asked Rebecca and Julie to help us assist in that bikes or the school Safe Routes to School grant. We missed the opportunity last year, but we're going to try again. If the money comes out, which I think it does most every year, we're going to try to make sure that we're in line for it.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that somebody's assigned on the city staff that's looking at this instead of us just going, oh, we should be doing these things, and
No, we're
is that
we're
going
actually
forward
making
with it.
progress,
Awesome.
keeping that in front of us.
Yeah, in the last year, we've fleshed out our relationship with the Nonprofit Resource Center about our grant writing abilities through them and identified additional ways for them to work with us on this kind of funding and others.
Awesome. Very good, guys. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Mr. Mike Stewart for taking me around one day. It's been a couple, 3 weeks ago. We went around on these speed bumps, and he was showing me speed humps. I'm sorry. Speed humps.
Mike's drilled that in my head over these years.
Okay.
Bump and a hump.
Yes, sir. I've heard so much about that.
He took me around. He was showing me, I had some areas that needed them, and he was showing me the location and how to determine if this speed bump hump works on this street or not. So I want to thank Mike for doing that, and you learned me something that day, and But I'm just wondering, are we still going to put some more speed bumps up before it gets cold? Speed humps?
We will continue to put them up as long as the weather is conducive for asphalt work. And who knows how long this good weather is going to last, but throughout the winter you get good days, and we've got a list of speed humps still to put in, so we'll continue on. I think there's at least 6 sets of them down there laying on the desk. So we'll continue to work on it.
Thank you, Irvin.
Thank you. Turn your floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? If not, we're going to move on to item number 8.
Receive presentation on activities of the Muskogee Youth Volunteer Corps and recognize Eileen Van Kirk and the Corps for receiving 2016 YVC Project of the Year Award.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Mr. Chairman and committee members, it's
I want to
my
thank
privilege.
these young adults for sitting through this meeting that has, and unfortunately we put you last.
I first want to thank the city manager for picking up on, we send lots of reports and things that's happening in our department, and he picked up that our YVC had won a national award and said, hey, tell me about that. So I told him about that, and he said we need to invite them to come. So I want to introduce Eileen Van Kirk, who's our director of our Youth Volunteer Corps program, and she's brought some members with us to tell you about what they've been up to.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having us. And in a way, it's wonderful for us to be last. I guess we're last. But it's wonderful for us to be last because part of what YVC is all about, and so we won't make a long presentation. You can see the fun stuff. I gave you some handouts. And one of the things that I'm charged to do is expose them to as many things about our community and all our diverse agencies and populations and things. And so this is the first time that they've all come with me anyway to City Council, and they get to see how things roll. So I thank you, and we get points in our gold level for this, for participating. And I just want to say that it was a great honor to win the Project of the Year in 2013. As some of your handout shows, we were the National Affiliate of the Year, and it was the first year that they had given that award, so we felt really honored that we were the Affiliate of the Year, and that gave us some bragging rights. We put that on our shirts the next summer. Our program is year-round. We have projects on the weekend and after school. So this project that Animal Antics, which started with kind of a brainchild of my supervisor, Brooke Hall, in launching the dog park. Some of you were there for the ribbon cutting. So that was the first of this Animal Antics. It went through the summer. The last project was the day that they kept the water park open an extra day so that we could have a doggy dip and dive for people in the community to bring their dogs in. I do not have a picture of the bikini contest and the winner, but I do have it, so if anybody's just really got to see that. I put together a slideshow, and the slides are kind of self-explanatory. We worked with Northside Vet Clinic, PAWS, the Muskogee Animal Shelter. The people were wonderful there with the kids, and we continue to volunteer there. A couple weeks ago, we were out there walking dogs, and we'll just continue that. The Bark Park, like I said, Petco, Coins for Critters. Delcy Lewis gave the kids a whole lot of schooling over at the 911 about fur babies, and we know more than you can believe about how this all works. We've worked with vets, groomers. The groomers, you'll see the slides. That was quite something. The animal control officers, the emergency management, and just animal lovers all over town. And it just grew and grew and grew. One of the things that we did as it expanded, it gets very hot in the afternoon in the summertime, so we had to find some other things to do, and so we were going to the farmer's market and passing out homemade dog biscuits. You'll see the kids making dog biscuits, and just we started getting donations, not on purpose, that for the animal shelter, but people wanted to do something. But we were trying to publicize animals that were there for adoption, and we got invited to dance with the Kiwanis Kickers, another parks program, so to speak. Well, they liked us so much, and we liked them so much, and it's good for the kids to do intergenerational, that on Tuesdays afternoons, after it got to be 90 degrees every Tuesday, we danced all afternoon with the older people. And so that was really fun, and they all are animal lovers and have animal stories too.
Awesome.
So we're going to show you our slides, but I did bring 4 of the kids that were involved with that project, and they have name tags, but they also have the number of hours. And I guess one more thing that I want to tell you is we're a gold affiliate, and the support that I get from the Parks and Recreation Office and the city makes that possible. There are 58 Youth Volunteer Corps affiliates across the U.S., Canada, and Puerto Rico. And the Parks Department has been involved in YVC for 23 years, and it is a wonderful support, and I have all the help I need from all of you, and I really appreciate it. It makes things like this possible for us. Right now, in the last year, we've had 114 volunteers. We've done 174 projects, which works out to 6,001.5 project hours. This means something to these kids because there's levels of awards. At $21 an hour, which is the nationally agreed on price for volunteer hours, you guys have given to your city this year $126,979 worth of service.
Awesome.
So, with that said, does it just run, Bruce, or do I have to do it? Hello? No? Well, let's see. Okay. Push this? Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so these are the things that I submitted for the award. So this is sort of like, this is a little bit less people. This is the very first day at the ribbon cutting of the Bark Park. And then the rest are kind of self-explanatory. If anybody wants to know what something is, you can ask me. We learned how to wash dogs. The people were very patient with us at the animal shelter. And some days there were dogs that couldn't walk. So this little gal decided, I'm not going to take another dog to walk. That dog needs me. So she sat in that kennel while we were walking. Okay, this is at the groomers. That looks like a poodle. That is an Afghan, and that is a checkered poodle. We did see some things. Those are some kitties that were at Northside Vet Clinic that were looking to be adopted. And that's sort of out in the field behind. We do the dog walking on the trail, so we use the trail for community service. That's baking dog biscuits. And where we walk from the animal shelter across 32nd Street. And, some of the dogs like to go across there and some not. We stop across the street at a tree. Everybody gets a drink, kids and dogs. And then we head back. We visit the cats. We do things in the cat room. And this is some of the decorations. Those are the dogs and cats that have been placed. And so we thought that was a good place to pose. That's some of the activities that we did at the farmer's market. Doug was very kind to let us come and set up information, and that was Paint a Pet Rock. We had some activities. Those were some free puppies that came in a day that we were there, and if we could help people get them, that's us dancing with the kickers. And my man Sam here was very, very popular dancing. He could do front flip at the end, do the big finish. So we really enjoyed our time with those ladies and gentlemen there. And these are at the Doggy Dip and Dive at the water park. I think there's one or two more. We also wash dogs during this event for donations to the animal shelter. And that was a lot of fun, and I think the people that were there really had a good time, and we'll be looking forward to do that again.
It looks like the dogs had a good time, too.
Well, and we do, too. Okay, that's it for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mike?
would you introduce our
Would be happy
guests
to.
today?
Mm-hmm.
This is Valencia Rodriguez. Her mother works in purchasing. And she is a 2-year YVC person. She has 207 hours and has done 41 projects.
Wow.
This is Sam Daniels. This is his, in his first year, 128 hours and 22 projects. Audra's been with me for 2 years, 334 hours and 50 projects, and she drove here after school from Broken Arrow to be here.
Wow, thank you.
And this is Sam Hunt, and he has 178 hours and 29 projects, and that is his first year. In the summer, we run for basically 10 weeks, and we do things Monday through Thursday, all day, every day. During the school year, it's after school and on the weekends.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Eileen, tell us one quickie. Who is Victor that's in the center of the brochure?
That is, the annual report for this year has not come out yet, but we'll get it to you when it does. Victor was a student at Raw who was needing some volunteer hours to have a quarter credit because he was not going to graduate. So he came to me to do a quarter worth of things, and his story is in there. It was interesting because Victor liked volunteering so much. He volunteered, and I'm sorry that Council Member Coleman is gone because the project that meets at his church, Community Treasures, Victor worked, taught kids how to play soccer and do archery in the park, but went over and volunteered in that program in the afternoon. And he not only surpassed what he needed, which was like 70 hours, he ended up with like more hours than anybody had ever done in any affiliate in the summer. And so we have a criteria to go to this youth summit each year. And that year, we only had enough money to take the people that had done 500 hours or more. And they invited Victor, and they said if I didn't have enough money to bring Victor, that they would help us out with that because they wanted to meet him. And Victor has since graduated from high school on schedule and got a rougher 300. You know, you shook his hand, and he's got a rougher 300 cord under his belt, and he's going to school part-time and working construction part-time.
Awesome.
So YVC does wonderful things for people.
Thank you very much.
Good job,
Thank you,
kids.
guys. That is a really good feel-good story right before Thanksgiving, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, guys. Seeing that no citizens signed up to address this committee, we are adjourned.